A short story by Paul McCann, The Ideal War. It was a difficult and dark time in academia when the corporate core took control of their liberty and lifestyle. At first no one took any notice of the threat, and when academia finally woke up it was far too late to do anything about it. The takeover had been fast and furious. First the libraries closed, then the media sectors and universities. The corporate core had moved in and arrested all the writers, artists, musicians and singers. All these people were now held as the prisoners of the kingdom of Kaporscha. These prisoners were taken and given electric headbands that monitored their thoughts, and life-drain belts had been placed around their waists. Prisoners of Kaporscha were not permitted to think, write or create anything other than that of conformity and Kaporscha. So into deep dark chambers sank all these prisoners. They were lowered down from the keeper's gate and never seen again, except by the corporate guards who came 3 times a day with some food and an inspection of their life-drain belts. In the early years, many writers had been dragged out of their cages lifeless, but not yet dead. They may as well have been, though, because these poor, brain-drained individuals never really recovered again. When they were brought back to their cages, they lived like zombies there ever after. Everything and everybody that once belonged to academia had been captured. The official records and all the literature of academia were placed into the Great Masters Hall. Within these walls were the relics of what once were academia's history and its passionate lifestyle. Gone were the days of free expression. Gone were those who lived out their dreams in the theatre of life. Gone were the gifted men and women who sketched out the colours from the corners of their soul. Art for art's sake was gone and seen no more. Although the war had finished, a serious conflict still continued between academia and the corporate core, with a small number of rebellious writers. With hope in their hearts and passion flowing through their veins, an escape plan was in motion, and the word was spreading fast. A number of escaped prisoners had managed to infiltrate the corporate core intelligence networks and had gained access to certain government files in Kaporscha. With the information they had, an uprising was hatched and a plan to recover academia again. The uprising was ready to begin, with the last of the escaped prisoners now free. One by one, the corporate core guards were captured on their way to the underground chambers. As they exchanged places with their captives, the number of guards now held in underground prison chambers was 1,156. Those who had escaped from their cages was the same, and the number of those academians that remained in cages were 3,844. The academians who had escaped smiled as they placed the life-drain belts and headbands on those guards who used to torture them and abuse them. The prison guards now lay in cold steel cages with their new identities supplied by and from the men and women of academia. A plan was hastily put together during the first stage of the uprising to overthrow the economy and bring about a corporate collapse that would ensure a lasting victory to academia. A selected number of media men and artists were given shelter in an area of the Great Masters Hall that was well protected. This group were specialized with certain skills of creating fake banknotes. Another group of people had the job of locating a large network in which they could offload large quantities of these notes into the exchange currency used in Kaporsche and all its operations. Operation No Currency began in secret as the government of the day received their first payment of 330 fake million banknotes. And one by one, all the other governments who dealt with Kaporsche also received the benefit of the counterfeit movement. Within months, the black market was a playground for crooks and criminals, but the huge flow of money created its desired effect. Huge inflation brought about a collapse in the corporate economy. All over Kaporsche, shopkeepers began to steal food from their customers, and the trade of bartering for certain items like soap, potatoes, tea, and razor blades were criminal. Meanwhile, Academia watched on as their enemies fell. All over Kaporsche, a new order came into effect that brought Academia back into power again. There were answers to questions inside new books that emerged on the market, and many nations pulled together in a global attempt to stamp out the injustice of corporate power in society. It was a huge task to stabilize the world economy, but rather than say it couldn't be done, nation after nation fought a war that they had never before had to fight. And in this new world, the cause to stand up and fight for what is right stood up against all the wrongs. It was a long and a hard battle, but after the war finished, all the differences between the rich and poor finally ended. On a global scale, men and women began to live in peace, and any unresolved arguments were not tolerated. After centuries of fighting and hatred, a place of peace had been found. This arrangement was called the Academian Agreement. It brought hope in a peaceful way. It brought life for the first time to a new generation of people to live together with ideals and freedom. Writers emerged with masterpieces, and an explosion of creativity erupted that saw a rebirth of theatre in every corner of every country around the world. For the first time in history, mankind saw there was a promise to look after the needs of the human race by all and for all humanity. Utopia finally arrived. The end.